welcome everyone today to Terra Hub. It's an amazing Saturday, and we are awaiting an amazing event today, a podcast episode 2. And today we'll be speaking on the theme of project owners, community leaders, and basically what we can do for community and healthy project leading in the times of the bear market. It will be a free talk discussion over crypto in general and crypto community with a promotional aspect. Will be fully focused on the theme. So guys, just join, listen. This is gonna be some awesome ideas, and we got some carefully selected guests. Also, bit of a reminder for the community and special listeners. Feel free to comment, ask, or add to discussion. Just tag me in the main, so I will read that and will be able to get this on the talk. So guys, I think it will be great if you could introduce yourself, therefore the role in the projects and maybe a bit about the projects you are representing.
So who should start?
Go first?
Morty, please start.
Oh, I didn't know who was going first. Hey guys. So yes, sure. My name is Morty. I am one of the co-founders of GemPad. We are a newish launchpad, and I am in charge of marketing for GemPad, but I also do all the talking and stuff like that.
Great, thank you. Now the F.A.T.E team, please.
My name is Wes, and I'm the owner and lead developer of the F.A.T.E ecosystem. I've got Vlad and Nomad, who are also in the call, I believe.
Great, thank you. Now for the Phoenix blockchain.
Hi, I'm Spazatron McGee. You can call me Tron for short. I'm the community coordinator for the Phoenix blockchain with like virtually no gas, but does not sacrifice on the speed. So we've kind of overcome a lot of problems that other blockchains got.
Great, thank you. And the last host is Cheesus Lounge, so CH.
Hey guys, good day or good evening, whichever time zone you are. I am CH and one of the owners of the Cheesus Lounge. We proclaim ourselves as one of the legitimate lounges that is quite casual in terms of investments and talking about anything crypto. Thank you.
Great. Guys, as we are speaking in the team, let's say bear markets and how it affects ourselves as a project leaders, the communities. So maybe let's start up the discussion on what we are experiencing right now in these times and how the times changed. For example, from the past, therefore, there was a bull market, everyone was happy. But what's happening right now and what do you experience? So again, Morty, please start.
So as a launchpad, our biggest thing that we've kind of noticed is how much harder it is to launch projects, where you have people that have put in so much more effort and done all the right things that would have worked this time last year that just doesn't work anymore. It's also, we have a lot of things where people don't realize that as well. So we have kind of projects coming to us with hard caps that were made sense, as I said, this time last year, but just don't make any sense now. And we also a lot of projects, kind of the long-term ones, they need to know, and most of them do know, that now is the time to build. So that, no one wants a bear market, but things tend to be a bit quieter. So you have time to build and learn and be prepared for when that bull does come. And then when that bull does come and you're ready and you've done all the hard work, you should be one of the first projects to go.
Great. This is a really a good thing that we got multiple guests from multiple project paths and approaches. We got the Cheesus Lounge there. We got the launchpad. We got the ecosystem blockchain. So Spazatron, could you now talk about how you feel this whole experience currently?
I heard somebody say once that there are bull markets and there are build markets. And that's sort of how we see it over that's what I've been trying to put out there, is that it's just a time to build stuff, and then the bull market's when you reap the rewards for what you build during the bear market. So it's part of the system, right? I mean, it's just how it goes. I know no one likes a bear market. Everyone gets antsy, but that's how it is. Winter happens between fall and spring. Does it every year. You can't freak out about it. Just gotta put your head down and get to work.
Yeah. I mean, guys, it was from the Fates. I'm watching your Telegram. You're building like multiple things at the same time, and you're fully focused, guys. Like, how do you experience this as well?
Well, I think the key really is to not really pay attention to bull or bear market and just focus on building value. Whenever you have that value ready, regardless of what market, if you've done the work, I feel like you've got a shot. We kind of, our project initially launched, I guess, in the midst of at the height of the bull market. And we saw a lot of the hype kind of dwindle out as the bear market kind of set in, especially over the last few months. But I think the mentality of our community, since roughly Christmas and a little bit after Christmas, since January, we've been pretty focused on just building, regardless of what the market's doing. I think that's important for everybody to kind of consider. We need to stop thinking about the market as much and focus on building actual value. And then, when the bear market or when the bull market does kick in, obviously, then you all reap the benefits of the work that you've completed during any cycle. But don't focus on the cycle, I guess, is my thinking.
Correct. And to have the full spectrum of perspective, CH, like how do you experience these periods in the launch of yours?
I mean, to be honest, it's really depressing for a lot of people, especially the people who are not whales. They don't have much money to play with, and if you're gonna compare the bull run to the bear market, I totally agree with what Spazitron talked about. It's better to call it as a build market, because build market, this is where the time where you're building foundations for the legitimate projects with good utilities. Where in the future, when bull run kicks in, this is where the legitimate projects actually moons and actually grows a lot. I mean, I remember during the bull run, we were in terms of having pre-sales and launches, we consider an X2 at launch a loss, and having X3 plus is what we want. We always wanted. A lot of people have been selling for a lot of money back then, but during the bear market, it's you'd be lucky to be above pre-sale price because lots of fear in the market. So I guess in the bear market is what I'm seeing is that you always need to look into the future on how the project will go once the market starts catching up and eventually going into the bull. Yeah,
as Morty is representing GemPad and launchpad. Morty, can you relate to this? Like how do you feel
that? Sorry, say it again about how do I feel about
Yeah, sure. How do you feel about this? What just CH was talking about that? Yeah, people are kind of short on money, and these launches currently are having problems to even fill the pre-sales, and it's been very tough. And I think even for the launches, beforehand we could see a lot of hype, and the marketing was just ongoing, but right now it just keeps struggling. And for example, I can see from a perspective as a project owner that is just about to launch, that a lot of projects are currently reaching for a fair launch, right? So how are the pre-sales, and how is the money flow? Is there any spare cash, or people are still short?
It's definitely a lot tougher than it was. One of the biggest things we noticed is private rounds, that people just don't want to do privates at the moment. So even we have a lot of VCs we're partnered with, and nearly all of them have stopped investing. We even reached out to other ones and they said, yeah, they'd be interested, but just not right now. And there's even some projects where they were presented and they'd be like, oh, I love the project, but we're not investing right now. So that's probably the biggest thing is kind of privates, filling privates, because privates are always a bit riskier. So that's one of the hardest things we've noticed. We've also, that's why another reason why we added stealth launches, so that they don't really have to worry about filling as much. But yeah, no, we have noticed it's definitely a lot harder to get investors. And like I said earlier, one of the things is that a lot of project owners, sometimes they need to be told that you need to lower that hard cap if you want to fill it, because like the lad's saying that there's just not as many investors at the moment, just in the current market.
Right. Spazatron touched Finn, and that's building despite the bear market. So I know that guys from F.A.T.E are especially into the revenue model building real products. So guys, how do you feel about the revenue model product utility building? Like, what should we focus at?
Well, I mean, we have to look at, I mean, from our perspective at least, we're looking at, what's going on the internet right now. How are successful companies, even ones that are hurting from the markets and the economy, how are they generating revenue right now? I was watching a video there just last night, I believe, where a content creator on YouTube was talking about the drop they've seen in advertising revenue. And they think that a recession is setting in based on that indication. I mean, they went from having $33 CPM to, I think, a $5 or $6 CPM. So that's a substantial drop. However, just from a critical perspective, when you go to YouTube and you watch any video, you'll find that the advertising volume has amped up probably 3 or 4x since the beginning of the pandemic, meaning you're seeing a lot more ads. Facebook and YouTube and Google have no problem generating revenue, regardless of what market we're in. Their stocks may be affected, just like the prices of crypto are affected, but they're still generating mass amounts of revenue. So that's why building value is really the most important thing, regardless of what the market is doing. It is tough for a lot of investors or holders or just all of us in general, just customers, because of the economy and the markets, regardless of whether or not you're an investor or whether or not you're just a consumer. These are all things that have to be considered when you're launching anything. And if you're doing that, you have to kind of consider, you have to make sure that your barrier of entry isn't too high, especially when the costs of things are skyrocketing.
Right. So do you think, guys, that the current conditions are pushing the project owners towards this building model and the whole approach and mindsets that we should build the fence, or is it still stuck? What do you think about that? And maybe CH, you could drop a word.
In regards to that, I think what gives the question is like, what would be the best kind of utility or revenue model? Is that it? I'm sorry.
Sure, absolutely, no problem. Like, what I was asking is, if the current conditions are pushing the project owners towards this building mindset, or it doesn't matter and it is still stuck, and it all depends on, let's say, people and how they approach the whole model of running a project, being a leader. But for example, from my point of view, like a lot of projects died, and some of the projects are trying to find new clever ways how to actually push and build. So like your idea and experience on how the project leaders are currently either changing their mindset or approach.
Okay, I mean, for me, in all honesty, it's all about delivery. That's pretty much what I really look into, because a lot of projects that I see, they're going to promise a lot of things before launch. And then once they launch, let's say it's a GamePad project, they launch a GamePad project and then they're going to launch your native tokens. And then right after launching, they're going to be saying, after 3 months, we're going to give you the first beta. And after that 3 months, nothing much really happens, and nothing much can really much happen other than keep doing AMAs, doing sort of advertisements. But the thing is, people look for delivery. We wanted to see results and how the project is going. So yeah, just stick to, do not overpromise and just keep delivering what you promise if you are promising anything. So that's pretty much what I look into.
Yeah. Well, Positron, like I know that you're running a really large team. You're building a blockchain and with a lot of products. So, like, how do you see this? Like, did you change anything since the market turned? But are you running still the same scheme?
So when we talk about building, it's basically people doing what they should have been doing the whole time. They should have been doing it in the bull market as well, and now they're trying to make up for lost time, and that's good. That's a good thing. I mean, now a silly token is now like, oh, we need to make something, and that's good. There will be lots of excellent products that come out of this. But we've just been building the whole time, to be completely honest. That was sort of our thing. We don't market. We didn't market anything because we didn't have stuff to market yet. So we're more like, we'll market after. Once we have something to show, then we'll show. And, we communicate very well with our investors and stuff. And, we say, hey, if you want to wait till after we launch stuff, we understand. But, every week we do our little thing. We say, hey, here's what we got done so far. Here were the hangups. People are very forgiving if you say, something's going to be done soon, and then you say, oh, it's going to be a little bit more because we ran into these hiccups, and then it's just communication is huge.
Managing expectations and communication are the two keys, absolutely. Whether it's popular or not, because obviously we all want things to pump. I think that's kind of the one goal you could say that we all share, right? But at the same time, sometimes, bad news needs to be told to the community, and you have to be willing to do that, regardless of what you think. It's just the truth is better than lying to your community over promising. So it's really all about managing expectation and communication, like you're saying, for sure.
100%. I couldn't agree more. It's better to come out and say, hey, we're going to try and make a game. We don't know if we're going to be able to do it at this time. We're gonna have a go. And then if it doesn't work out, you can say, oh, well, we ran into this hiccup, But yeah, if you phrase it like that, as opposed to some of these projects, you've all seen it. We're going to have the world's biggest MMORPG, and we're going to have it tomorrow. And then you're setting we're going to buy the moon. It's like, well, no, don't do that. Just yes, manage expectations.
That happens way too often. Yeah.
Yeah, Morty. Like, I think you can see that from the first hands. And if you're launching a project and you are running the community, right, of a GemPad, so are people still looking for this kind of hype, or are they looking for, let's say, product revenue model, backers of the project? Like, how do you see that in your community?
I think people question it a lot more. Like before, just obviously GemPad isn't that old, but before, when I was trading myself, kind of in the bull, people didn't care as much about the money coming in. They just were all about hype. Now, the hype does still play a pretty big part. It's just harder to get that kind of hype, just because there's less people here. But I do see that, like, in a lot of AMAs, a lot of the questions we get for projects tend to be their revenue stream and all. And even ourselves, they're like, whenever we're doing AMAs, or even if we're doing community AMAs, or even they just come in and ask, we get asked that, like, where is our money coming in? And a big thing is how you spend it too. And I feel that
100%.
I think because there was so much money floating around during the bull, that people weren't as careful with it. And if a dev said, oh, I'll build you this game, but it'll be 50 grand, they'll be like, okay, yeah, that's grand. Whereas now, if a dev says it'll be 50 grand, they're going to be like, oh, I'm going to go ask 4 or 5 more people. So it's a little better that way. Well, no, it's a lot better that way. And we try and encourage that. So sometimes we have people come in, like projects come in, and they're saying, we're building this game for like 100 grand. And to be honest, I won't say which one, but we looked at it and said that it like 5-10 grand would probably build it, what they're trying to do. So there's a lot of that. in it, and people are getting better because they have to be more careful with their money. It's just not going to work. You can't afford mistakes in this market. But yeah, a big part of it is people are a lot more, even like investors, they want to know where the money is coming in and where is it going out and why is it going out.
And really, that's the way it should have been in the first place. I mean, people get caught up with emotion with the quote unquote FOMO, and that really is unfortunate. But that is kind of a consequence of a lot of project leadership as well, right? Because people just follow what they're being told, and if the project leadership or the is being just over promising and building up this kind of needless hype, then that's where a lot of people get hurt.
Oh yeah, like, and the thing as well is that like it's easier now back then it was easier because if a chart's going up, which it was a lot easier to do back in the bull, people don't question as much stuff. Whereas now when the charts tend to be like
Absolutely.
a good chart is one that nearly doesn't dump in this market, so people are just questioning everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, back then people don't really see the developments. They just see the price in the chart and they think that the project is doing good. Yeah. But now people are have more attention to details right now. They wanted to know what kind of developments are being made, stuff like that. So I guess investors nowadays in the bear market especially have become smarter in terms of this.
Yeah, and they say, I see a lot of people saying as well that the ones that stick around during the bear will do a lot better in the bull coming. So that like the ones that at the end of the bull, they just left and they'll come back in the next bull, they'll probably come in a little late. Whereas the ones that stick around and are learning and even investing in the bear market, that as soon as we get into another bull, they'll be doing a lot better and they'll already have a few steps above the guys who only are coming back.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I mean, the people that keep their eyes on the road get where they need to get. Mm-hmm. Put it a different way.
Well, yeah, it's the same thing when you talk about investors, for example, because I don't think a lot of investors who just discovered crypto in 2020 or 2021 made a lot of money. It was mostly the people who were into the crypto space in 2017 who made money of the people who invested from 2020 and 2021. So it's the same thing with projects as well. Like, yeah, you might not know anything about crypto, or you might try your chance to release a project in the middle of the bull run, but obviously it's a very hard path to make it successfully in that bull run, and you have to go through the winter, through the development phase, and then through the next bull run. If you have lucky, you can get a successful project. And FOMO, it's one word that actually fueled a lot this bull market and every bull market as well, because to launch a project where you don't have really any development on it, you really rely on hype and FOMO. And because the bull markets, they go very, very fast. Everybody is rushing to do advertisements to hype their project. There is not really a lot of time for building the project itself, because people don't realize when they talk about those gaming projects, those metaverse projects, even people who want to make a basic app, if the app is working, you can't really make a product or a business in 1 or 2 months, like in real life. If you go, like for example, if you buy a corner store or something, and you have to to bring clients or to make marketing or to build the actual corner store, it has to be like 1 or 2 years before you can start actually selling like noodles or ramen, So it's the same thing with crypto. You cannot build a fully developed business in like 1 or 2 months. So because they know they can't do that, even with a lot of money, they can't do that. They rely on fake promises like, yeah, we're going to build you a AAA game in like 2 months. And they'd have no idea that a AAA game, first of all, it costs like $5 or $10 million to build a AAA game, like GTA or whatever. And it takes a lot of development teams, like hundreds and hundreds of development teams and published companies and so on. And 5 to 10 years to build something like that. But no, they promise you everything that is going to be done in this bull market, this year, next month, next week. So because of that, a lot of projects and a lot of project owners, they know it's impossible to do it. So they rely on hype, they rely on marketing, they rely on fake promises. And people people dig that because people, for example, you guys in the GemPad Lounge, I think you guys have more experience with this than myself. But when I was introduced in crypto, for example, in 2020, and when I started investing in 2021, when I discovered BSC and MetaMask and the decentralized DEXs and so on, when I invested my first money into the pre-sale, I was always looking at the amount of people that are involved in the pre-sale. Why? I didn't really care that. I mean, I have to be honest here. When I started investing in crypto, I didn't care about the project itself. I didn't care what they tried to deliver because most of them, they only promised bullshit anyway. So my main focal point was to see how many people are in the pre-sale and how much is the buying pressure at the beginning of the launch, because that's where you are making most of the money. If you invest in a pre-sale and you know it's a lot of there are a lot of people waiting to invest in that pre-sale, or there are a lot of people waiting to buy that initial launch, then you can make a quick 2, 10 free X's or whatever. Yes, so projects tend to promise you a lot of stuff that is not going to be delivered. Project owners maybe are or maybe are not like sincere with the investors. They spend all the money that they gathered in the pre-sale to market the project. So the people who come and buy at launch, they feed the wallets from the people who bought in at pre-sale. And those pre-sale guys are the only guys that are actually making money if the project launches and if there is enough buying pressure at the beginning. So back in the day when I saw hyped pre-sales that were gathering like 100 or 200 BNB, I was really into that. I was trying to fight for whitelists. I was trying to get in ASAP and to ape my 1 billion into that project. But now when I see projects with trying to reach like 100 or 200 and they don't even reach that, I just laugh at them because I know right now it's impossible because it's very hard to make that FOMO again.
Oh yeah,
Right.
no, it's a lot harder. And I feel that like the thing is as well that back in the bull run and like when you started around the time, you just didn't have to spend as much to get that kind of hype. That it was you just didn't have to get as many stuff. Whereas now, to kind of fill a pre-sale, you kind of need to go on every call channel, every AMA group to have any hopes of filling. So the sooner the bull comes, the better for that part anyway.
I mean, I'm kind of guilty with what he said. Sorry, who was talking again about the...
Yeah, me, Vladimir.
Oh, Vladimir, yeah. I mean, that was pretty much me when I first got into the decentralized space. My research that I do when investing into a project is like looking at how many members are there in the Telegram group, how many followers on Twitter. I don't care what they say about their project. If it's related to an Elon Musk tweet or something, then I'm all in. I don't care what utilities they have. I'm sure I'm going to make a quick buck at launch days. And of course, the times of gas wars, you're going to be spending like 0.5 BNB, 1 BNB just in gas, but it'll be worth it because for sure you're gonna make at least X2, X3, and that was the days of the bull run, and kind of miss that, to be honest. But it is what we is now in the bear market.
But it affected the whole crypto market. That's the problem. Like, yes, we like to degen, we like to gamble, but we transform this whole crypto space as a big casino, And for example, I was talking with Gilded that I said that crypto space became like a big casino, but he said no, because in casinos, you actually have some type of ROI. So if you lose like $100,000, at least the casino will try to pay you back 50 to keep you in the game. But here, if you get robbed, you lose everything. The casino doesn't have any ROI. It doesn't have any payback at all. So it's even worse. So we kind of fed this whole system. So people are not looking into utilities, are not caring about the project. Like I've seen people have not written the white paper at all. Like they just look at numbers and that's it, basically. Well, and I feel guilty for this because. Yeah, sorry, I feel guilty about this because a few months ago, I think it was my last degen move, how to call it. It was a project. I'm not going to give any name, but probably everybody here knows about that project. It was a very famous developer who abandoned one project to start another one. And it was very funny for me because people were getting into that project, were so hyped, but the developer said that he's gonna announce the utility at 50 or 40 million dollars market cap, and they did a fair launch, and in the first few seconds they taxed 90% everybody who was trying to sell that pre-sale. There was a lot of people involved. The marketing, they had like a $5 million marketing budget, and they spent $2.5 million, and they started the project from 0 to 50 million market cap, and after that it was only down. But at one point, I think they even invited Jake Paul into their voice channel. And it was funny because, you know, when you look at the marketing strategies and how to market a project, it's not when the actual marketing is done, the project starts to pump. It's before that. And when they see the marketing done, that's the moment when they dump the project, because they know after that phase, there's not going to be anything more better than that. So when you do marketing for projects, especially for hype projects, we have no utility or whatever, there are like some stages, you know, when you start doing like small marketing to get that seed fund money, and then you kind of go into steps. So you go to a small MA channel, then you go to a little bigger one, then you go to an even bigger one, and you slowly go and walk across those steps until you go to Wall Street Bets, or you go to Jake Paul or Soulja Boy. And as soon as you hit that type of marketing, when you go through all the small ones and then you go to like one or two big ones, then it's just gonna go only down, because investors, they know, okay, so those guys paid like $1 million to bring Jake Paul into the voice chat. I bought in before. As soon as Jake Paul entered the voice chat, I dumped everything, because I know after that nothing is gonna happen anymore.
Right.
So
like,
you want to?
if we are talking about marketing, especially, like, I feel these times are hard, especially for people, and the cost of living, the inflation and the prices are like soaring, and the energies and etc. Like, it is very expensive. And if we compare the effectiveness of the marketing, like previously in the bull run, it was like really effective. There was like large pumps. But I think right now, currently, that there is like less spare cash and like little budget to spend on. So I think this leads to something that the marketing isn't that effective as it was previously. And I think people are, I'm sorry, I will just end up this idea. Like, I think people are picking the projects currently much more carefully. And this may be also forcing like the project owners to be focused else, because the marketing got really let's say it is not as a goods in the price and value, but right now I think the project owners are either looking for pre-sales or either some other smart ways. So guys, how do you feel about this?
Okay, yeah. Just gonna have an idea about this. I mean, talking about that, about the marketing that was working back in the bull run, I think there's an advantage to this in regards to having less spammy projects. I mean, I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys in Telegram would get added into like 100+ Telegram groups advertising you to this any Dogecoin or meme coin projects. But right now we're seeing less of these projects, and we're seeing more of the legitimate projects now in the bear market. So I guess that's an advantage for you to be able to easily pinpoint which project are actually legitimate and will be able to deliver. So
well, I would like to. Oh, sorry. Were you finished? Sorry.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Sorry. This is Nomad. I'm the business development for F.A.T.E, or the F.A.T.E ecosystem. I would love to chime in a little bit about that topic, because at the height of the bull market, you were seeing these influencers, you know, charging X amount of dollars per tweet or whatever, Jake Paul, all those guys. And it's funny now that the bull market is over. You're hearing stories about some of these influencers being prosecuted for some of these tweets that they were putting out. And so as far as
including
going back,
Elon Musk, by the way.
yeah,
Just to point out. I mean,
well,
he's being
whether
sued
that's
for
going to
his
hold up
entire
in court
wealth.
or not, who
Yeah,
knows?
absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
But I mean, as far as marketing strategies versus a bull market, bear market situation, the bull market, you could tweet about anything at the very beginning of it. And you could even tell people, we have no utility, but we are just a straight up meme coin. And you would see a positive push, maybe not for a long time, but you would see something. Whereas going back to what we were talking about at the beginning, the builders market, you do see a lot more of real world marketing for real world utilities of people who actually, I think CZ said it. The people who stick around during the build markets are the ones who actually care about the crypto ecosystem as a whole. It's all the influencers and other projects who are hyped up, overinflated, where the dev went fishing or dev went, dev sleeping. They're nowhere to be found. And I would definitely keep an eye on those guys for when the next bull run comes around, because I guarantee you out of nowhere, they'll pop back up and, I'm working on a new project. But the ones who were around, still building, still growing their community, still being as transparent as possible in uncertain times, those are the people who are going to make, the crypto market better as a whole, in my opinion.
100%. I'm used to being on cams, and you can't see me nodding furiously, but I was nodding furiously.
I also have to insist that dev god fishing is not a good example.
I know, sorry. Gilded loves fishing, so we can't say that anymore. No, but that was the thing that people would say, and especially in these predatory marketing styles too. I've done marketing and sales for a very long time in and outside of the crypto space. And these and it's so funny too, because if you look at someone's Twitter, you'll see they have 1 million followers, right? And they're charging $250,000 or some outrageous number per tweet or per call out, but yet their engagement rate is nothing. And so you can tell that they either botted their account or they bought the account, and now they're charging people for tweets, even though their engagement is filled with bots or just non-existent. And you get a lot of people taking advantage of the situation when there's real people who are, starting to do real amazing development in the space. I've been kind of peeping on everybody else's projects in here, and I'm really excited, and I'm excited to know more. But you get just like anything, you get the element of, I guess you would call it warmongering in a way, hype mongering, FOMO mongering, where people put themselves, I'm not going to say names of influencers or anything, it's none of my business. People put themselves in a position where they flash their cash, they flash their wallet, and they talk about all the gains they made. But what did they really do to put themselves in those positions? So that's why when you come across projects or development teams or community engagement coordinators, and you can tell that they really care about the community, about the project, about their utility, you just need to keep all of those guys in a big list of relatively trustworthy people, as much as you can trust anyone on the internet. But that's, again, my 2 cents.
And you can expect that, right? In the next bull run, it's going to happen again, right? There's so much money being thrown around. So if it's, a silly influencer saying, promote your stuff, you've got, 15 of them, and you just, hope that one of them actually brings influence. It'll happen again. Yeah. And then a few years later, we'll be back in this saying, what do we do in this bear market?
What's actually a big thing that we noticed is marketing agencies. Because you were talking about influencers, and there's a lot of botted ones out there, but there's a lot of marketing agencies that just cost an arm and a leg, and they're just not worth it. We've noticed a lot of ones that, say there was one, they were doing 30,000 worth of marketing, and they were charging 15,000. So they were taking half of it for themselves, and then the rest was just to fill the pre-sale. And
And most of those guys are literally only calling the call channels and influencers that you could easily contact yourself.
Oh yeah,
That's all they're doing.
And it wasn't like none of the call channels were the best ones either. Like, we all know there's a few top tier ones. I wasn't even any of them, and we tried to convince them, they wouldn't listen to us. But we have found there's a lot of bad marketing agencies. To be honest,
I think
it's nearly harder
the
to
biggest
find.
problem. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I just think the biggest problem when we talk about marketing is that, and this is something that's true with the internet, with business, and with crypto, specifically crypto right now. But when somebody sees a particular campaign work, then everybody kind of follows suit and does the exact same thing. And you get into this area where everything that's being tried marketing-wise is tired. The best companies are the companies that have unique marketing campaigns, and they're always doing something different to try to engage with their customers. In this case, it's investors. It's the same problem. You want to try to think outside the box when it comes to marketing, and not try to follow just the same thing that everybody's doing. I think that's a large part of the problem, both in the bull market and right now. When people are having problems filling pre-sales, for example, it's all in what you're doing and how you do it. If you do the same thing that's been done already and is wore out from the last 1 or 2 years, then we're all seeing the consequence of the results of that.
Well, that kind of makes me curious anyway. I'm sorry, I'm not as experienced or well-knowledge as you guys in terms of marketing, because I do not have a project, just a lounge. So I'm kind of curious, what kind of marketing actually works for you guys, especially here in the bear market, that has actual results?
If I could jump in and answer that with also, I'll try and be quick, but it was funny while we're talking about this. I was watching a new show on Hulu called Dark Times of the 90s. And it was talking about the Beanie Baby craze. And and it was like and I found out that they were the first website on the internet where you could buy an item. It was a Beanie Baby, apparently. I could be wrong, but that's what it said. And it was so funny. Once they started introducing the idea of not producing a certain type of Beanie Baby anymore, that's when things started booming. So the scarcity of items, which automatically made me correlate it with deflationary tokens and things like that. And people were just literally killing each other for Beanie Babies. And it was and just like Gilded alluded to, it was the first of its kind. It was basically the first product you could buy on the internet. It was the first deflationary product that you could buy on the internet. But then, of course, just like the internet, the dot-com bubble, everything popped. And so as far as your question about marketing strategies, it's very shifting. So the things that worked a couple months ago, everyone says, oh, that was a great strategy. Like for a minute, we had the rewards tokens, the baby tokens, where you could, by holding this token, you can earn token X. There was the explode of that for a while, and some of those did very well for a little bit. So as terms as effective marketing, honestly, in my opinion, it's just kind of what everyone's been talking about already. The thing that's always going to work is building relationships with your community, giveaways, prizes, things like that, and then finding pockets of niche marketing that no one else is doing. That's what I see working in the future. Of course, when the bull run ramps up again, you're going to get like we just talked about, the influencers, the marketing campaigns, and it's just about getting as much eyes on target as possible, but then having a utility and a message strong enough to back up what the eyes are seeing to make people stick around.
So basically, hype and trends is
yeah,
that's pretty much it. Yeah, it works though.
Yeah,
I mean, getting face to face with people is really what works the best.
Yeah.
networking, going to conferences, trade shows, putting yourself in positions where you're presenting your concepts to groups of people or even individuals. I'm not trying to chill anything, but I've got a lot of experience when it comes to that, literally door to door, right? With a car that was all deckled up and the whole kind of niche, like Nomad was talking about. And when you do things like that, you stand out, and that's what's memorable, right? That's what drives the brand value. Is when you do something that's different, gets people's attention. I think that's really what, from a marketing perspective, you want to look for things that can really capture attention, so that you do stand out.
Another life hack. Oh, sorry.
Oh. No, you go.
A life hack for these influencing companies, these marketing companies, ask them if they can speak. Give them 2 or 3 languages, and then have 2 or 3 buddies that speak the language. And if they say yes, we can do that, and then they can't, that's what we use for like filter.
That's a good idea.
People don't expect my conversational Mandarin to be good, but yeah, it's there.
That's awesome. I'm putting that in the back pocket. As far as marketing goes, we I don't feel like it's inappropriate to talk about. We got invited to an expo. And we came up with an interesting strategy for marketing. Should we keep it as a surprise, or should we talk about it?
I don't think we talk about it here.
But just briefly, please.
I don't think we talk about it here. I think we just generalize it a lot and just focus on the trying to be creative and not trying to just stick to the same kind of strategy that everyone else is doing. I think the conversation, this is a productive conversation, so we don't want to focus on any one project. But the marketing itself, I mean, you just have to be creative. You have to think, what do people like interacting with? Like, what could be fun? What could be engaging?
But for example, I think there is a big problem of trust issue, right? And especially for me, when I had the idea to start up the Tyra Hub and run the podcast, I had a big trouble into hitting up like projects and get either their trust or trust them from my perspective, So there is like a lot of competition, and also only a little cooperation in between the projects, because this is such a hostile environment. But there are still projects that are trying to be cooperating, but they were burned, by lots. And this is a big problem. And I'm not sure if we can relate to, let's say, a real life. Let's keep it like a crypto environment or BSC. But still, guys, how do you feel about the competition, cooperation, and the hostility in the space?
It's horrible. It's horrible because, at the end of the day, if you look at what cryptocurrency represents, and I think what really brings us all here, money's cool. People like that. But the decentralization and the concept of being your own bank, and also at the forefront of new technologies and meeting like-minded people. I've met, I get to meet someone who I've only spoken to, and she lives in London. That's the cool part. You get to meet all these cool people who you're excited about the same stuff. But you get that whenever money mixes into anything, things follow with that. And then especially going back to predatory promotions and things like that, you get these, these groups where you want to go in to share your project with the community, and they take a bunch of money from you, and then they just crap all over your project for no good reason, or they don't even talk to you about your project. They end up shilling their own project, and they just brought you in to hear about it. And then I think that causes the rift of people don't trust anybody anymore because they've been burned so much. But with, I love what we're doing here, having an honest discussion about things. You get to meet the good ones. And once you meet these good ones, then, you create your own subcategory of people in the space, of people who you can trust. And that's where I think we can slowly move away from, the discourse and the predatory actions. Is, it's about just keeping everyone's community safe and doing the proper vetting.
One of the biggest things I find with kind of all the FUD and just the competitiveness of the space is that it's one thing when you're FUDing a project, and it's safe, the project's not doing what it should be, and there's FUD and all. It's whatever about hurting the project, but you're also hurting just a load of just investors who just thought they're investing in a good project. And it's the thing I hate most about the space is that it's always us against them. But really, at the end of the day, a lot of times it's just the investors who get burnt. Like, I'm not going to go into it, but I've noticed that a lot in the launchpad space, there's a lot of competition, and it just seems to affect investors a lot, and they just kind of get caught in the crossfire.
Oh, yeah.
It can change, but I don't know. I'd love it to change, but there's always, I think, I don't know who said it, but when there's money involved, there's always going to be a lot of competitiveness and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, whenever there's a penny, there's a scammer. Yeah. And this is true in the entire world. This has nothing to do with crypto. We all get kind of caught up with this bad behavior that we talk about in the crypto space, but this behavior is pervasive. It's everywhere. Scammers are hitting people on Facebook. They're on YouTube. They're on TikTok. They're on every platform that you can imagine, and they're scamming in every possible way. Whether they're scamming they're showing a crypto project that's going to rug, or whether they're scamming you for your credit card, or whether they're trying to, get ransomware installed in your system. There's so many ways and so many different hazards that people are taking advantage of. And I know that we're talking specifically about crypto. I just want to make that clear because crypto gets a lot of bad rep in a lot of ways for a lot of this behavior, but it's not something that's isolated just to crypto. And it's really important to keep that in mind. It's something that the internet as a whole has a problem with.
Yeah. No, 100%.
Right, yeah.
A bit of an aside, but there was a politician lately that said something like, we discovered that cryptocurrencies were being used for illicit activities. And my first thought was, I wonder if you could say the same thing for dollars. Probably.
We discovered that the U.S. currency was being used for illicit activities.
I bet it's the same guy who advertised that gaming transforms kids into terrorists.
Oh my God.
They just want people off crypto, so they would be investing in the government and the banks and stuff.
You want to talk about FUD attacks, right? Let's talk about. I'm not saying the Chinese population as a whole, but the Chinese government, how they put out a tweet every month about crypto's going to zero. We've banned mining, blah blah blah. But then you look at their, Chinese crypto holdings. Are, I think, number 3 of the country list of cryptocurrency utilization. And so when all these government officials talk about crypto's a scam, it's going to zero, it's used for illicit activities, in the back of my mind, the only thing I think of is they're trying to FUD the bag to get a better position. And again, that's just my personal opinion.
Well, talking about illicit activities. Yeah, sorry, I just want to bring something very interesting that I've noticed when the war started in Ukraine, for example, talking about illicit activities, but it's very funny because a lot of people from Ukraine I've seen that they were so happy when the war started that when they left the country, they were praising Bitcoin and they were praising a lot of cryptocurrencies because they used cryptocurrencies to pay for their stuff, to pay for their hotels, to pay for their visas and what's so not. So I always thought about in a positive way about the crypto space because it's not tied to one country specifically. And in case you have problems in your own country or a part of the globe has some issues and you have to use money, even if your money in your own country gets down to zero or it inflates very much, then you can use crypto as a gateway to get out and start paying for your own stuff. So I've seen a lot of Ukrainian peoples actually indulging in crypto and saying that they saved their life because they used that money to pay for their stuff.
Well, not to get too political, because you know, I don't want to veer the conversation too crazy, but this happened to a friend of mine. He lives in Ukraine, and he lives in Russia. And when this all started, he was trying to get out of Russia, and he had all his life savings in the ruble, the Russian ruble. And during, you know, a portion of the time when the ruble tanked, he had basically lost all of his money. The banks were only letting people take out around $5,000 a day. So what he did was he would take out the max amount of money he could, and he converted it to Bitcoin in order to get out of the country.
Wow. Yeah, I mean that's why I think a lot of us are so interested in figuring out a way to make a lot of this stuff work. You know, and we're not just talking about like the projects like our own. I mean, we're talking about people like Ada and Charles, CZ and Binance. I mean, there is so much power that's, you know, clearly there when we're talking about, you know, what can crypto do to the world. You know, as far as, you know, decentralizing power, decentralizing money, just helping the equal distribution of resources, or not, or at least more equal. So I mean, it's just unfortunate that crypto gets the rep that it gets, because again, a lot of the behaviors that we notice, you know, crypto is inspired by the real world, obviously. So these same behaviors, I mean, they come from the real world. They're not isolated to crypto. And I think that's really important to keep an eye on, and to really talk about, because when we talk about solving these problems, you know, if we're able to solve the problem of how we can, you know, limit scams or prevent people from getting ripped off in the crypto space, there's a good chance that could apply to the real world, right? Because solutions can also, you know, traverse from industry to industry, just like we're seeing with crypto. Currency, you know, the currency, you know, was just a paper thing in your hand, and now then it went digital, and now we're talking about decentralized digital. So,
you know,
it's definitely interesting stuff.
Yeah, we've been hearing a lot of depegging of stablecoins, and how, again, people are talking about it like it's the end of crypto. But you look at fiat currencies, they're depegging all the time.
All the time.
And no one bats an eye. They're like, oh, it's just the way of the world. But then you hear, oh, you know, what was it? The Tron stablecoin. Oh, it was at $1, but it went to 93. It's depegging. And you're like, well, you look at all these other fiat currencies, quote unquote, depegging. And it just blows my mind.
Yeah, well, my salary depegged like 3 years ago, so.
That is the absolute best way to put it. That should be a tweet, right? My salary depegged
years ago.
That's the worst one, yeah.
That is the best thing I've ever heard, yeah.
That's awesome. A T-shirt right there.
That is a T-shirt, yeah.
Oh, my God.
Absolutely.
I guess the best competition crypto has is with the governments, I guess, because, you know, pretty much even the government is flooding crypto. As you've talked about earlier, China get it to the lower price. And, you know, I guess except for El Salvador, who actually, I think it was El Salvador who, like, their, I'm not sure what the term is for, like, using crypto as an investment for their currency. Everyone else is pretty much flooding us, especially the U.S. with the taxes and stuff. And we are getting the most crap. In terms of being flooded.
Because they can't control it. And people are hiding money, and it's just stupid.
To be fair,
I think that they're
El
terrified.
Salvador.
They're terrified of it. That's what it boils down to. And what's noticeable about the entire that entire aspect of it is that the only countries that are really resisting crypto are the countries that have money, the richest countries. That's not a coincidence, right?
I mean, they don't have to worry about it. I mean, they just wanted to gain more money from their already rich countries, and they don't need the decentralization. I mean, their own money is the DeFi. They don't need that because they're gonna get less money once that is more established.
El Salvador is going to be a superpower the next time the next bull run comes.
Bull market, that's right. It's going to flip because all of the developing countries, they all have the same kind of property where they're all overpopulated. And if you've got this vast amount of, what right now are impoverished people that have no other choice but to jump into crypto because it's the only vehicle that's really truly global that allows them to obtain any kind of value. When the bull market does hit, then those people are going to be the next round of millionaires.
Well, think about the Western Union situation.
Mm-hmm.
When El Salvador started accepting Bitcoin, people who are working in the United States sending money back to their home countries, their families in the home countries, they were using Western Union and getting raked with taxes and fees, right? But now that they can send it through a trust wallet, and Western Union, I don't remember the statistics, but they took a huge hit just because
it was like 70 million. I think it was like 70 million or 70. You might have even been 700 million. It was a massive number, though.
Yeah, and
I'm not going to elaborate on this further, but I would like to point out that El Salvador has a president that's less than 3,000 years old. So I'm just saying
that. Honestly, it's going to play in his favor. It really will, because I mean, we won't elaborate on it further. But
are you guys talking about Biden though?
No.
No comment. No, but I stand by my statement about saying the next bull run comes, El Salvador will be, it will flip other countries, and it's going to have a huge economic boom because of it.
To the moon.
El Salvador to the moon.
You guys are going to give me spinal damage for how fast I'm nodding.
Yep. Yeah.
He needs to make an El Salvador coin then.
Dude, El Salvador is the crypto project, right? It's the crypto project of the world. You could look at it that way.
Yeah.
I mean, I could totally see them coming out with a stable coin. If you look at countries like Vietnam,
do you guys understand those volcano bonds that they have?
Oh,
have you heard of that?
Yes. Oh my God. Yes.
Oh,
it's so fantastic. Like they're actually trying to engage with their population with this Bitcoin move, and I think that it really is kind of the model of what
and utilizing are going to go with topography. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I think government should do that more because they're just flooding when you say Bitcoin cryptocurrency, the people who haven't invested or used crypto in any way, they're just going to be like, oh, people use it to buy drugs and stuff. Like what you talked about earlier about it being used on how the U.S. brands on how evil cryptocurrency is being used for illegal stuff. And, I guess it needs to have a positive light shed by the government itself because, unfortunately, the government is what majority of its citizens trusts.
That I don't know about anymore. I mean, I think that's changing. I mean, you're right. People still hold a lot of trust in the government, but that they're really testing that right now. The whole globe,
which is a positive development for for a lot of citizens of countries.
There's so many small changes that governments could do that would benefit the government and be more inviting. Because right now people are leaving the United States. They're denouncing their citizenship because they're just sick of it. And side note, Do you know how awesome it would be to say, "Oh, my money is backed by a volcano"?
That's not what volcano bonds are, though. Just to
I
be
know,
clear.
but just saying.
That's what they call it.
Also-
It's such a badass name.
Yeah.
Again, not going to elaborate further, but it's almost like some of the things that are considered illicit activities shouldn't be illicit activities. Just saying.
Oh, that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah.
But
Well, and it's never illicit for them either, like insider trading. And,
yeah, that's not illegal.
you know,
But yeah, I mean, there's so many different things that a government could utilize, like just by saying, "Oh, if you pay your taxes in crypto, we won't tax you on the crypto that you use to pay your taxes." That simple rule right there, and it would be people would be like, "Oh, I don't have to," because now I have to
back up. You get taxed to pay tax?
Yes. So here, meaning if let's say I need to pay taxes, right? So let's say I owe 50,000 in taxes, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So now I have to sell my digital asset in order to pay that tax. But now I just created a taxable event on the sell that I just made in order to pay my tax. So now I've racked up more taxes.
Well, okay, that's really not that different than a payroll tax, though.
No, yeah.
I thought you were actually getting taxed again
No.
for paying the tax. I'm sorry.
No, but I'm saying if we were to utilize cryptocurrency to be able to pay taxes.
Right. Well, they just need to treat it like currency so that you're not taxed twice on it. That's all.
Yeah.
Sounds almost like theft in a sense.
Savage John, I already know
Sounds
you
illegit.
and you're gonna be best friends, bro. I'm gonna send you. I'm gonna add you to my contacts right now. Oh, that's funny.
Guys, I mean, the team is for the project owners and community leaders, right? So let's try to again touch this theme. And I mean, do you think it is possible to grow even in bear markets? And if yes, like what would be your approach and also advice towards those that are maybe not doing the things right? Let's start the word maybe with the Morty.
Okay, yeah, okay, I'll start. Well, first of all, the biggest thing is to be really careful when you're investing, whether it's or not investing when you're spending money. So if it's marketing, make sure it's effective. You should be almost getting that, especially if it's a coin that has a tax on it that goes back into marketing. You should kind of expect that to get that back. Now, in the current market, that's really difficult to do because there's not a lot of marketing that will do something like that. So you have to be really selective. Also, what the guys said earlier on is to be creative, something new, something interesting that will really capture people's attention. And then, like I said earlier as well, is do not overspend on developers. That don't just take the first offer because you're just so happy to get started, because you might have, say, 50 grand to spend on development, and you get offered 50 grand and you'd be like, oh, that's perfect, that's what I wanted. But if you go and look elsewhere, you might get it even half the price. Like we actually had a guy, we were going to have a bot built and for Telegram, excuse me, and first we were quoted 15 grand. And then he came back to us a while later and he said he'd do it for 5. So, and that wasn't, we told them that we were going to go around and ask elsewhere, and we just didn't get to it. And he kind of came back saying, look, I don't want to lose the business. And it's just, people are very used to in crypto, the developers and marketers, they're used to people having money and being willing to spend that money. And so a lot of times they'll just offer just nearly, it almost seems like random numbers. Like there's actually a DApp I had built. I started it maybe this time last year, and I had a friend of a friend was building it for me. He was building it really cheap, mostly because he was kind of a friend, and he had to go. He got hired to do another project, so I had to source another dev. and I got recommended this group from a friend, and they wanted to charge me 40 BNB to build it. Now, this was when BNB was a bit more than it is now. And I talked to Red, actually, who's the dev of GemPad, and I spoke to him about it, and he told me that it's just a ripoff. And so he got it built for 5 BNB. So it's just, if you go and explore it, you'll find it cheaper. You nearly always get a better price than your first one. So that's a huge thing for project owners. Don't just, because sometimes it's hard to actually find a dev who's willing to build it, but just don't take the first one. You can just say to him, look, I'm going to go see if I have another guy I'm going to ask, and just see what happens. Because now more than ever, you have to be really careful with your money. And especially as well, if it's a long-term project, don't be afraid to lock away funds. And what I mean by lock away funds is just put in a separate wallet, and that's for development, and it won't be touched. That's what we do at GemPad. And I'm just saying it because it's a good example, is that we have funds locked away for a few months of development, so that if we don't have any volume, we don't get any projects, we can keep working. And that was one of the biggest things, because you never know when it's going to get worse or when it's going to get quieter. So just be prepared, and just be very careful when spending money.
100%.
Right, let's continue, guys. What about you in F.A.T.E? How do you feel about it?
Well, I think I keep going back to kind of the same point, and that is you kind of have to find your purpose, your meaning or your value. It's all about creating value, right? So whatever your utility is, or whatever your service is, or whatever your product is, I mean, these are things that actually sell in the real world, and I really feel like that's where the focus should be. Selling products and services to real people. The tokenomics of things, I said in the previous podcast, the tokenomics should be kind of the afterthought, the way to kind of enhance and boost what you're doing as an operation. But at the core, you should be looking for ways to create value and ways to generate revenue, so that yes, you should absolutely watch what you spend, but a bear market does not mean you can't sell products and services. It just means that investors are more skeptical, but people still consume, people still buy, people still watch movies. These things are all still true. So, whatever the economy is doing, people are still going to be, they still have to work, they still have to pay their bills, they still have to do these things. So there's services and products that, help them achieve those things, or help them live their lives better, and we need to find out, where we fit in those categories. That's for any project, right? You need to figure out where you touch people at. What's the connection there? And I think if you do that, everything else just kind of falls into place.
I think the real task for most of the crypto projects, especially right now, is how to generate revenue, and how project can pump their chart and increase their market capitalization and their liquidity without relying on the volume of buying and selling. How can you as an investor open a chart and see it pumping, and you don't see any kind of transactions at all, like not one person buying tokens or another person selling tokens? And that's where you get, if you're trying to sell and use the products and the services from your system.
Right, great. Spazitron, again, the word for you.
I hate to say don't worry about it, because that's like the first go-to for everybody. But we're in a crypto winter right now, and that's the thing that I want to just bring up. People thought it would be crypto summer forever. We're in a crypto winter right now, and that's fine. That's natural. In real life, if you went to a doctor and said, I don't like winter, I would rather have a spring and 2 autumns and a summer, they'd cart you away if you talk like that. But no, it's the winter. We build, we be quiet, we keep our heads down and do work.
That's right.
And the summer is coming. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, it's very hot outside, but very cold in my heart right now. And regarding of the marketings and how other projects can come with better marketing ideas, well, you have to look again at the real world and the real businesses, because if crypto will try to solve real world problems, then crypto itself will become a business. And like the other businesses, how other real life businesses are promoting and how they are using their marketing strategies. Well, right now, especially in this bear market, I have only one word that I can say for everybody that seems to be a very successful strategy, and that is partnerships. Real businesses have to partnership with each other, because hey, I have a tomato, well, I sell a watermelon, oh, let's partnership and create a store where we sell that watermelon and that apple in the same store, right? So the same comes for here. Like, we're trying to innovate new payment methods, we are trying to innovate new concepts, new business revenues. Well, let's go knock on other businesses' doors. Let's try to partnership with other crypto projects. Let's try to partnership with real world businesses that they might need us. They might need our products, our services. So that's the best model right now, as I see, in terms of marketing. Do real partnerships and have legitimate businesses backing up your project, because if businesses will use the stuff that you are making, then there is impossible for you to not succeed, because that's the marketing itself, right? Like, person goes to a business like a restaurant or a coffee shop or whatever, and they see your project name right there, like, yes, we accept crypto payments with those guys, or yes, we sell you coffee NFTs or coffee t-shirts or whatnot, right? So
Just
that's the answer, my friends. Partnerships, and try to find real businesses to back your project. Knock on every person's door and say, hey, let's team up, let's try to build something amazing.
Well, not
I
only
could not agree more. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say, not only that, but if you can find, just like what Vlad was saying, if you can find interesting ways of onboarding people outside of the crypto space, and because if I always am under the belief that if you're someone's first contact with crypto, you kind of have a moral duty, I guess you could say, because with all the scammers out there and all the other crap going on, if you can find a way to safely onboard people into the cryptocurrency space, let them know this is my project, it's safe here, do your research, whatever. Those strategies as well are not only going to bring new, cash flow into your project, but it's also going to help ease the idea of what cryptocurrency is.
I just want to focus on the partnership thing for a minute. That's how it's going to work. That's the way forward that I see. We're not competing against, Billy Bob token. We're competing against the freaking Winklevoss twins with Gemini. We're competing against, these massive projects that were funded from like centralized places, and we're stronger together, right? That's a big thing that I believe in.
Absolutely. I actually have said something. I've said something similar. Like when we talk about, because I'm not trying to shill our project, but we are working on like social media, for example, and that Mark Zuckerberg is not waking up tomorrow thinking about ways about how he can pay people to use Facebook, or how he can, and he's not paying people. He's actually sharing the wealth that's being generated by the collective platform of everybody posting their content and communicating on Facebook. But he's not waking up tomorrow thinking of how he can do that. Systems like that are never going to be built from the people at the top, right? Because they're trying to hoard all the value. So, smaller projects or startups, that's where the real opportunity is, in my opinion, because, you have that's where the real intent of the decentralization and giving people back the power of, both their value and their money, or the things that they post online, the freedom of speech aspect of it, the privacy aspect of it, all these things matter. But you're never going to have the guy at the top making the best decisions for the people at the bottom, I guess is what it boils down to.
I mean, I totally agree. Yeah, on a lounge perspective, you want it to be exposed to as many people as possible. And I think the same applies to having projects. You want it to have as many audience as you wanted. So partnerships is the easiest and most mutually beneficial to both parties to achieve that.
Absolutely.
So yeah, and communities are a lot more stronger during the bear market because people just don't jump from projects to projects because it's the bear market. People won't be jumping like after launch with X2 or something like that. People are actually staying in for the longevity or the longer growth of the project in the long run. So yeah, I think now is a great time to start focusing on partnerships because that's always a good thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like if we are talking about the partnerships, guys, like how do you actually look for them, or how are you trying to get some sort of partners that are worthy enough to be in touch, or what's the approach? Like it has been sold at backers partnerships, but like it is very hard to actually get something ongoing that's valuable and both like utility wise or even like with all the trust. Like it is very hard.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same challenge as finding the right investors or finding the right customers or finding. It's all about connecting, making the right connections, regardless of whether it's a customer, an investor, or a partner. The best advice I can give anybody if you're looking to figure out who to partner with is try to align yourself with different projects that you feel kind of they kind of what's the word I'm looking for? They improve what you're doing, or they augment what you're doing. They enhance what you're doing, or they add value to what you're doing. It could be a product that your whole community might be behind. Like look at how YouTube creators often get their sponsors or their partners as far as VPNs and drinks, and these are things that people that businesses know that people are going to consume, know that people want to use. I mean, if you're trying to catch eyeballs, then you need to follow what those eyeballs do. So that's really what I think people should be trying to look at when they look at partnerships, is trying to figure out what products kind of align with what we're doing, and which ones have the most eyeballs. Which segments have the most views or the most attention, most people.
No.
I mean, personally for me, in regards to making partnerships between different launches, sometimes it's the way your relationship goes with them. Like, I think the best partnerships are not strictly business-wise. Like, pretty much some bunch of friends just chilling around, like talking about stuff like that. I think those are the most productive kind of partnership. It's not just based on just growth, but as cliche as it sounds, like friendship and stuff is what makes a good partnership, more than just the goal of making money. Yeah.
But that also comes from aligning yourself with, like, finding the right. That's what I mean by finding the right partners that align with what you're doing, because you obviously get along with people that that seem like they're aligned. It doesn't mean that they always have to agree either. It's just when you can get a sense of what kinds of things work well together, right?
Yeah, you need to sometimes argue in order to come up with the best solution or answer to whatever you're arguing about, and that makes the best ideas. You can't just if you always agree on the same principle, then you won't come up with a different or new solution.
Correct.
So I totally agree with that.
Great. And I mean, what I'm wondering about is, like, if you are running a launch, I'm sorry that it is kind of not touching the theme, but how do you feel about the competition and the cooperation in between the lounges, CH? Like,
as much as possible.
Yeah, like
I mean,
like is it hostile, or like people are trying to help each other? Because like it is a competition for you, but is it even possible?
I mean, to be honest, us in Cheesus Lounge, we try to get along with everyone, basically. But sadly, there are There are always lounges that's gonna FUD the other lounges, but we just try to get along with everyone, because why do you need to compete when you can just partner up and grow? I mean, how can you compete when you're just aiming to have the same goal, which is to get as many people in the lounge as possible? So that's pretty much what we do. We don't compete. We just try to, if someone wants to compete with us, we'll find a way to work with them or partner up with them. And I think that's the healthiest and friendliest way to grow as a lounge or an investor group.
I mean, if I could just chime in on that, I mean, we don't have a lounge or anything, but I mean, from that perspective, I think what you guys could do is you really want to find like lounges that are trying to be different, right? Trying to actually be truthful and not just be, call channels for pumping ups or for bros. And there needs to be some sort of network of trusted lounges, so to speak. Like a website where people can go and find all the best sources for good quality AMAs, and not lob ball easy questions on these AMAs either. I mean, really challenge the teams to answer tough questions like, what is your plan outside just making money off the chart? It's just a simple question like that, can really help inform a lot of people.
Yeah, definitely.
That's the intent of a project.
Yeah, there's definitely going to be an inner circle wherein this is going to be the trusted partners. But yeah, I totally agree with that. And also it engages more engagement for the community as well, which is always good to have in a lounge, because we wanted to see an active lounge, everyone communicating and talking about, and that would draw more people in the lounge once we got those kind of discussions in.
For sure.
Yeah, for example, my experiences with lounges is that they only look for money, and most of the lounges, they don't even care about the project or whatever. Yeah, they receive that 2 BNB for an AMA. They have the same questions, like all of the lounges, all of the AMAs that I listened to, they have the same pattern, like point to point. Yeah. They don't talk bad about the projects. I see lounges inviting meme coins or rugs, and they are always friendly with them. And even if the project doesn't have any business plan or any idea, or even if the person who is speaking for that project doesn't even know what to speak and how to speak it, nobody talks bad about it because they paid that to BNB to be at that AMA. So basically, my point is that if you have, it doesn't matter that they paid you money to be part of that AMA. You should have hard questions for them. You should, you should try to punch that project as much as you can to get the best out of it and to see the outcome. Because at one point, when the interviewer, when the guy who is speaking into the AMA from the lounge, I'm saying he is always kind of either neutral, either positive for the person who he invited into the AMA. So I've never seen a paid AMA where the interviewer was actually talking trash. I mean, not talking trash, but like stressing the project that they had into the AMA because they paid and they want to have them as future customers or whatever. So that's my problem with some of the lounges. I mean, most of the lounges is that they take your money, they have the same questions that they ask, like, yeah, what's the team behind? Is your project good? Yes, no, thank you very much. And that's it. They don't have any personal opinions about it, if they were actually a good project or not.
I mean, or at the very least, if they can, sorry. Cool. At the very least, if they're going to ask, pointless questions, they could ask interesting ones. If somebody asks me what inspires me, again, I'm going to blow my effing brains out.
I mean, I do hosting for AMAs a lot, but there are some AMAs that I host that that is just going to be a scam. And it's kind of hard to balance it out without personally funding it, because there's this you're a business guy, people pay you to talk about it, and I guess that's also the challenge that I have.
Launches should care about the community that they have. Exactly. That's the main thing. Like, you try as a lounge, even though you got that money from a scam project, if you know that it's scam and you have a lot of red flags in the middle of the AMA, you stop the AMA there and you say, guys, thank you very much for participating. Whatever, I have to protect my community before I try to protect the project that paid me to BNB, because you're trying as a lounge to protect your own community. So people go
Exactly.
there, they
Yeah.
see, oh, they have an AMA with that project, I'm going to invest because that means it's a good project, but not most cases, no.
From a lounge
that is a
perspective,
good
you
way.
have to think of, from a lounge perspective, you have to think of the AMA as being your product, okay? Which means that every single AMA that you release is a product, and you're going to wear it, good or bad. So if a bunch of people get basically robbed because of your AMAs, you're selling a shitty product, and that is eventually going to come to bear. So, you know, in the interest of your product and your brand and your reputation, you should absolutely be willing to drill anybody, even if they're willing to pay. I mean, otherwise you're running the exact same operation as a mainstream media company, and we all fault mainstream media for doing exactly what we're talking about, right? For ignoring health risks and letting and risks and just blindly advertising and shilling essentially, you know, certain views or certain opinions or certain products or services, right? Again, the AMA is your product. If you're a lounge, that definitely is your product.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the best way to put it. Like after the AMA, once it's done, then you can tell your community, because I guess that's mutual respect for paying the product. And at the end of the AMA, you can just tell them that this is a really suspicious AMA or project, and then, you know, basically
You have to
what
be
they
willing
pay,
to say
it
no to
ends.
bad projects. That's what it
Yes.
boils down to. You can't just accept money from everybody.
Yeah, that's why
I
you
mean,
need to
if you
also
look
do
at
your.
if
Go
you
on.
look on Facebook right now, you'll often see like fake tokens launching, literally with Mark Zuckerberg's face on it. Like, I don't understand how he allows that to happen. Like, there's no way that should be able to happen. But it demonstrates what I'm talking about, right? Like if you want to just accept money at all costs, and that's all that matters to you, then you're going to take money from scammers, and you're going to be nice to them on AMAs and things like that. But if you look at a show like Shark's Tank on with Kevin O'Leary and a bunch of investors, you know, they are merciless on these investors or on these startups, and they do it for a reason, right? I mean, it's not just about you know, you're not necessarily demoralizing somebody. You just want them to you want to make it clear, you know, what's appropriate and what's not. You know, what investors expect. There's nothing wrong with that.
Mm-hmm. It's just honest questions. I mean, it might be harsh,
Correct.
but it's honest questions, and it's relevant. And you wanted to
Correct.
improve your community for having, you know, you wanted to ask the right questions to prove them that they are wrong in a way. Their faults, rather, the right questions to expose their faults. That's
and exposing their faults is something that actually benefits them as much as it benefits, you know, the you as the lounge doing the AMA. Because a lot of times, challenging people to think about the problems that they may not have otherwise realized, that can help people.
Exactly.
That can help these projects that, you know, may not have necessarily understood what they were getting themselves into.
Yeah, and as you said, it's
I
a
could
product.
not agree more. Sorry.
Yeah.
No, I was memeing before, but no, he's exactly right. Yeah, just actually asking the tough questions, the hard questions, is really important.
It is.
Yeah, that's the best and professional way to deal with it. You know, you can't just go around like, you know, once like halfway through the AMA, you're definitely like at least 90% sure that this is a scam project. You need to have a way to pull it in the direction while you're exposing them by asking the questions, instead of just saying, okay, this AMA is a scam, all done. You're going to close it.
Right.
You just wanted to expose it. That's the professional best way, I think. Put it.
Well, maybe a good approach would be also to try to research about the project that you're having an AMA, because in my experience, when I worked on another project, I paid like 8 or 10 beans for a very big AMA group to host there, and the host had no idea about our website, about what we wanted to do, about the project situation. Like a lot of people, they just take the money, they don't even look at the white paper, the website, or I don't know, have like a small talk with them beforehand, because a lot of this stuff can be avoided by simply having a small interview before the AMA or doing some research before the AMA, so you know if the project seems legit to you or not. Because you can set,
I mean,
it's your own lounge. You can set the standards. You know, you can have any type of shitty projects or any type of crypto
there's
investors
actually a
there.
real there's a gem of an idea in that, Vlad, that I think people should really pay attention to, because what you just said is absolutely what should be happening, and people, you know, we should be vetting these projects, but more importantly, you should actually do a private AMA first and treat it like the real deal, so that you give the project owners also a fair shot at coming up with good responses to what would be tough questions. So they're not completely blindsided by the experience. They know what they're in for. Everybody knows what they're in for, and they can prepare for it. You know, and I think that will expose a lot of shady people, while at the same time helping the ones that are legitimately trying to do something.
I'm taking notes here. Thank you so
Yeah,
much for the
maybe
suggestion.
for
Those are
example,
actually good ideas.
yeah, maybe if you have, like, let's say you charge like 1 bin, let's say as an example, you charge 1 bin for the AMA, whatever, yeah? You can have like, you can tell them, okay, then if you want to pay 1 bin for the AMA and the promotion and and so not, you can just pay me half now and probably pay me half after your initiation phase. And they pay you only half a bin, so you can get paid for your work. Then you go start to research into that project, then do a private AMA with them and see if they are legit or not. And if they seems like good guys for you, then you can ask for the second half of the bin and start the real AMA, for example.
Yeah.
So that way you got half of the payment, you research into that project yourself, and if you don't like it, you say, okay, I'm sorry, I researched, I did a private AMA with you guys, I don't feel like this is an appropriate project that I can present to my community. This half of bin is not refundable because that's the payback, that's the, how to say, the that's my tax for my time, and that's it.
Yeah, I think that alone can filter out a lot of the scam projects, because if
100%.
you're not a legitimate project, why are you willing to risk 0.5 BNB? But if you're a legitimate project, you're willing to risk 0.5 BNB because you know yourself that you're going to be a good project. So yeah, that's an awesome idea as well.
Well, I might add a bit on that. Like, for example, I think I can call like Tiara Hub like a real launch. Like the columns we are doing, like I'm not charging almost anything just to share the giveaway pool for the communities. So I pick the projects, and at first I am always checking out like the white paper, and but of course, like you never know beforehand, like how the team is based, what experience they got, if it is like a legal company, right? So I think, yeah, like this might be a good reason to have some sort of introductory pre-AMA, or at least having a chit chat on the team chat, right? And having this clicked. So yeah, like this is not a bad idea at all. Guys, I think we could turn this discussion towards the theme again, and that will be like what can we do for the community in these times, like how to approach and how to really make the community stick together. And maybe we, yeah, go on.
Yeah, so there's a few different ways. Like the main way is really kind of teaching them. So like, especially ones that are kind of new to crypto. If you've done mistakes in the past, it's great to kind of tell them, so in the hopes they won't make them in the future. And like, because even even stuff like how to sell properly and all, and just trying to teach the right things. And I don't. Sorry, I'm just trying to get my point across, right? But yeah, it's just about, and even like, say, one thing we started doing is tutorials. So it's just showing people how to do everything in crypto, and because we actually had a lot of people saying that they didn't understand parts of it. So it's, especially in this kind of market, it's just teaching them things, like in even the simplest things to like how to work charts, to the more difficult things about even like when to sell and how much to sell, and just stuff like that is, I think, very important as well. And it's also that not to trust everyone, and especially not to trust those DMs you get, especially on Telegram.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess I'll take this opportunity to ask a question, because in terms of you guys, you have your own projects and all, but I'm pretty sure you guys choose the communities you plan to have an AMAs on in terms of promoting your projects. A lot of times I see project owners often just look at the numbers, the number of members of the group. They don't necessarily care about the activity. You have 10,000 members in your community, you're going to get my AMA. So how do you look into the engagement of a launcher community before choosing to have an AMA with them? Or do you at the very least care about that? Yeah.
So when we're looking at them, because as well, when projects come to launch on GemPad, we also recommend different lounges and stuff like that. So we try and be extra careful, because it's not our money that's being spent on the AMAs, it's also their money. Now, I find with AMAs, a lot of times we'll say, look, these are the ones we recommend, but you should go kind of check them out yourself. So the kind of things we look for is we look for activity in the chat alone. So how many messages were in the last few days. Then we'll find out when their next AMA is, because we'll ask them, look, how many listeners do you get on average? And then we'll actually just go into an AMA ourselves. We'll watch it fill, because some AMA groups, I'm sure, bot their listeners. So we will go and watch and see how it fills up, whether you can see, look, that's clearly botted or organic. But that's a big thing for us, because like when we have people project coming and saying, look, I wanted to have an AMA, it's a big thing to not recommend the botted one, because they say, oh, they're all botted, and there's some that are not. And so it's just kind of finding them. And we're in a good position that we don't really have to do it often, because once we do it, we find the good ones, and then we'll hear back if one of them starts botting or loses kind of their interaction and stuff.
Yeah, makes sense. And if no one else wanted to chime in with that, another thing that I'm seeing about recent AMAs in a lot of lounges are a lot of questions are of lower quality. They're probably just paid people, asking the same question over and over again. So that's also one of the things that I'll personally look at in terms of watching other AMAs from other groups, the quality of questions the community gives. You also guys look at that?
Yeah, and like also Mastodon, that there are, for example, network of people that are kind of looking for the giveaways, right? So you may not even know, and like a lot of the people may be joining just for the giveaway part. And for example, I've seen that even on our AMAs, like we've done almost 16, 17, and like in average we are getting like 130 to 140 people. And in the last section, the giveaway part, like almost 40 or 45 members join on the VC only for the giveaway part. So I am like, how to prevent this? Like at the same time, I want to reward the community, right? But at the same time, it just hurts the whole idea of the AMA and like being kind of heard from the projects, since I think it is a good idea to not be overcharging any kind of the fees and just trying to interact with the community, since we are building like a network. And this is the reason like we are here, because we've kind of clicked together due to cooperation, and it is like really another way to interact. So like we need to discredit these people from those kind of I don't know if it is even a good idea to run the giveaways, right? But
Yeah.
still it is a good idea to have some sort of a reward. Like it is a popular, but I guess we shouldn't overdo this part.
Yeah,
I think giveaways are good, but I think what they need to really be effective is they need engagement. Like this is something that I've actually I tried a while back with a different lounge. It didn't really work out because they didn't really execute it the way that I was hoping they would. But if you treat the community and you treat these raffles or these giveaways as kind of like a game show, where you flip the questions on the community and see who's paying attention, almost like radio shows, like the radio does, right? Like they force you to wait for a certain song to come on before you have to call in, and then they only take the first call. You know, if you treat it like that, you might get a much more engaged community as far as the AMAs are concerned, and a better quality audience, not just people looking to, you know, looking to just for a free ticket.
Yeah.
An AMA
I mean,
should also be entertaining. Like, let's
Absolutely.
not. Yeah. So
Absolutely.
don't
No,
ask,
it needs to be.
Yeah. So don't ask people what inspires you. Ask them what their favorite food is. So if you're gonna do easy questions, make it funny, make it fun.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, no one wants
would
to
absolutely
hear
agree
like
with
a
that.
PowerPoint presentation, like or kind of set up and naming. I mean, people wants the ones who was quite casual and interactive with a lot of people, like having jokes. Yeah, I agree with you totally with that. Those are the most fun AMAs to give and has the most interaction with people.
But you do still want the professional stuff. You still do want people to show up with their charts and their graphs or whatever they can present. Those things are still very, very important. But as was just said, you know, this is entertainment. People, you know, you're trying to capture people's attention for some period of time. You have to keep them engaged and entertained to some degree, regardless of how vanilla or boring the content might be at times. You know, because again, some of these questions do get repetitive from project to project. You know.
Yeah, it's finding the perfect balance between fun and intellectual or like informative. Yeah, that's a better term for that.
It is, yeah, for sure.
100%.
So yeah, thank you so much for your inputs, guys. Yeah, also learning a lot from this because you know always wanting to learn ways on how to do AMAs and keep having more entertaining ones to get more people in. So yeah, appreciate that for giving those suggestions.
That's what these things are about, I think. Sharing ideas and having good discussions, productive discussions.
Definitely.
Correct, guys. I think there is one question from the community, and even Positron told I should unmute the Marvin. So I'm unmuting and allowing to speak. So hello, and you are free to add something to the discussion.
Hey guys, thanks for unmuting me. There was so many good points. I wanted to jump in and give some feedback, but I guess the proper etiquette with these podcasts is that the people who are attending actually just get to listen, or could somebody first of all fill me in on the proper etiquette? Because I had my hand up for like 45 minutes, but I guess but great topic, great points. Just could somebody answer me about the etiquette of podcast first, and then I'll give my 2 cents if that's okay.
Sure. Do your name, your project, and then you know, say what you want to say.
Oh no, I just I'm not here for a specific project. I just love the topic, and you know, just totally about the collaboration aspect. That's how we need to go in order to be like an oasis in a desert of scammers, right? But
Right.
yeah, on the topic of AMA lounges and stuff, that there are definitely a handful or more that are actually doing what they're supposed to do, asking the hard questions and not being afraid to do that in order to protect their community. So that's really important. And you know, if there was a question like how do I guess Elnan was asking, like how do I find good projects or individuals or devs or founders of projects to collaborate with? Well, the best way really is to just jump on every AMA that comes up and listen to for just a couple of minutes, and you'll be able to tell if the owners or the devs really know what they're talking about, and then you can just add them as a contact and check their project out real quick. and see if they have a utility already built that you're planning to build. There's no point in actually reinventing the wheel, or if the wheel is already made, why don't you see if you have a utility that can help them and they have a utility that can help you, and that just strengthens the community. Really, over the last 6 weeks, I have seen a definite wave of collaboration happening, and I've been part of it. With different lounges, with different projects, with different marketing outfits. We shouldn't be competing against each other. We should be empowering each other and making the space better.
That's a great way to put it. And I think it's also what you highlighted was also something that we might want to think about as far as the format of this podcast, right? Because I think the answer to your original question, the format really wasn't specified, but it was mainly just like a collection of projects that kind of got together to talk about the kind of the state of crypto and how we can better manage projects and expectations and whatnot. And, being responsible and accountable for these things, communicating with our communities. But for these podcasts going forward, from the listener's perspective, just like we talked about with the AMAs, if we want to, the best experience is one that's fun for people to engage with. So if people can ask questions of the people that participate in the podcast at the end of the show or toward the end of the show, that might be something to kind of adapt to.
Yeah, that would
completely. Maybe I will get for the next time Meldon collecting all the questions, since for example, if I'm hosting, I'm this is much more harder than hosting the casual AMA. The AMA has its own formats and it's basically repeating its patterns. But right now I am I'm focused on every single host guest has the word or speak, and it is we are experimenting right now, but it is getting better. But yeah, absolutely. I think I could add some kind of a rule that in the end section of each episode there should be the community questions, or I completely agree, and this is the point. It is not about only us,
not just questions either. They might have an interesting point they want to make too. It might not just be a question, but let the community kind of respond to what the discussion has been, whether they have a question or whether they want to make a statement like this gentleman just did.
Yeah, just to add some additional stuff to the discussion that could be useful and very topical for the theme of the particular podcast.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
Correct. Guys, we are touching the 2-hour mark. I think this should be the time to really say the last words toward the community, toward the listeners. So I will leave the word at first with Morty from the GemPad, and let's try to sum up all the important points we made in this session, and we'll end it there. It is weekends. I know people are waiting for other activities, so I'm glad that some people joined. So Morty, could you start up this last section of the podcast?
Yeah. First of all, I want to say thanks for having me. But yeah, so the main points we kind of went over was be careful when you're investing. Make sure, we've noticed that people they're not trusting people's word as much. They're researching more, and the most important thing with all this and being extra careful whether it's spending money, if you're a project owner or you're an investor and you're doing more research than just investing into random things. When a bull does come along, I think one of the most important thing is to take that into a bull market, because if you're doing that in a bull, if you're doing that in a bear and the project's still doing well or you're still making money, imagine what's going to happen when you go into a bull with that kind of thinking. So I think that's one of the most important things to take away from all this.
Thank you.
Yeah,
go on.
I would just like to thank everybody as well for their afternoon or their morning, whichever it is. I mean, 3 points that I just say cover basically what we've talked about, and it's have a plan, be persistent, and have patience. And manage the expectations of the community, communicate with the community, involve the community, and I think that we can survive the bear market no problem, and it's just a matter of letting things play out. But if you have a plan and you be persistent and you have patience, you'll get to where you need to get. And I think that's kind of that's something that we could all follow.
Great, thank you. Spezitron, your take.
It's the same thing. We've got to do partnerships and we've got to be patient. That's the two big things. Okay, if we can all hang together or we can all hang separately. That's the Benjamin Franklin quote. But yeah, just keep working if you're a builder, and keep extending partnerships if you're an investor.
Great, awesome. And CH from the Cheesus Lounge at last.
Yeah, so for me, I guess, investing not only on the project, but also the team behind it. You can see their track records and how they deliver projects. And yeah, I think that's a smart way to invest. And, the cliche words, do your own research and no financial advice. And I guess lastly, in regards to surviving the bear market, the main goal here is to not lose money. And I think based on experience alone, based on experience as well, that sometimes the best investment is to not make any investments at all, especially during this bear market.
Awesome. So this is a sum up of this podcast. I want to thank again to all the guests, to the GemPad, Morty. I want to thank the Spazitron from the Phoenix blockchain, guys from the F.A.T.E ecosystem project, and also the Cheesus Lounge joining us today. I hope that this discussion led to some important ideas and maybe made an influence over the listeners, guys that you are listening. I hope that you find it useful and somehow different than what we are seeing in the whole marketing space and the corporations. Like, I think this is the way to really start something that could lead the community toward the new ideas and really both help us project owners and also the investors and simply the community in crypto. So I hope that the next week we will have another podcast. Again, same quality, same ideas. And once again, thank you guys for joining us today, and have a great rest of the weekend. I am stopping the official recording, and this will be end for today.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, guys. It's been awesome being here. Thank you. It was really educational, but yeah, thanks for everything.
Much education. Thanks.
That was so cool.
Oh, thank you. I gotta thank my team for that. Yeah, the cheese, yeah.
Yeah, the cheese with the little... That's so cool.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, the cheese, yeah.
Yeah, the cheese.